Hey guys, shoot. Welcome back, my little nightmares. It's me, Queen Nightmare, and, how do I say this? I slept too long today. I woke up at, I hate to say it, 2 o'clock. It's 2:28 right now, and I hate myself, because my dad comes at around 4, so I should record a video now, before I kill someone. I'm saying that in the first 30 seconds of the video. I didn't say that. You didn't hear me say that. I didn't say an F word either, so, I don't know what you're talking about. So we're gonna do the Blairon, version. One bite, sorry. And we're on chapter 16, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, a letter. Blaze's point of view. What did you want to speak with me, madam? I asked Madame Pomfrey once we got into her office. Well, Professor Hagrid and I did some digging and found out more about your condition, she says, a slight grave tone to her voice. Well, you and Parkinson and Malfoy did inform me of your sclera, sorry, and your irises going black. Well, we figured out why, she said, sitting at her desk and shifting through a few books until she found one she was looking for. It was a forest green color, like how Draco describes Potter's eyes, with the title, The Evolution of Giants. What did you find, madam? I asked, gulping. Shortly afterwards, she turned to me in her chair and fixed the book into her lap. Sorry. There are 5 types of giants. There's a level 1, which consists of normal giants and normal half-giants, like Professor Hagrid. Did I say Hagrid? Wow. Then there's level 2, giants or half-giants with special abilities, she said, looking down at the book a few times for reference. Level 3 consists of giants or half-giants with special abilities and mates. Level 4 are giants. Giants all have those skills and increase strength ability. She said. I looked at her, confused, and she must have noticed because she stood up and put a comforting hand on my shoulder. What level does that make me? I asked her, my voice cracking over so slightly. You, Mr. Zabini, are level 5, half-giant. You have a special ability, a mate, and increased strength and ability. She stopped. And you grow larger every time you shift. The highest a giant has ever shifted is 27 feet. She added at the end. My head was spinning, and I couldn't seem to grasp what she was saying. Please don't faint again, she said. I chuckled nervously. If you don't mind, madam, I will go inform Draco and Pansy, seeing as they're helping me through this, I said, needing some fresh air. Come to me if you have any questions, Madame Pomfrey called as I left her office. I closed the door behind me and nearly jumped out of my skin when I felt someone push me onto an opposite wall. How on earth did he get here so quickly? I didn't think you were still here, I sneered. Weasley chuckled. before kissing my neck hungrily. Oh, gosh. You know, if I moan, Madame Pomfrey's gonna beat our Weasley. I hissed. Sorry, your scent is... He sighed, taking a deep breath. Goblin got your tongue? I smirked. He backed away from me and narrowed his eyes. That's what I thought. I chortled, walking out of the hospital wing. Now to find Draco and Pansy. After a while, I found the two sitting in front of the Slytherin fireplace, the green flames illuminating their faces. What did Pomfrey say? Pansy asked the minute she saw me. I sighed and sat down. Sorry, I had to spell something. After a while, I found the two sitting... Yeah, we get it. I sighed and sat down on the couch. I explained the levels, and she had told me that I'm a level 5, earning a gasp from Pansy. Well, do you know what special ability you have? Draco asked, and I shook my head. I guess we'll find out, I replied, releasing a long sigh. I didn't notice I had been holding. Fear was churning in my stomach, and I had an uneasy feeling that something bad is about to happen. Blaze, calm down. We'll get through this together, okay? Draco reassured, putting a comforting hand on my arm. I smiled at him before relaxing into the couch. There has to be more to this. It's too out of the blue. I thought to myself as I went to sleep that night. There has to be. I frowned and chuckled at myself, trying to calm down, but my heart thought otherwise. I should just sleep, shouldn't I? I've got a big day tomorrow. Anyway, I said, with that last thing, I drifted into sleep. Ron's POV. There's no Harry. Ron's POV. I stirred a bit. I could hear muffled voices, but they all stopped when I groaned and stretched. My eyes still closed. I opened them, nearly grabbed my wand out of surprise. Happy birthday, Ron! And this is author's note. Okay. I know Ron's birthday is on the 1st of March, but for the story, it has to be earlier. Sorry. Well, it's your work of fiction, so at least you're telling us that I did a little bit different here because I wanted it to. And we understand that. A lot of people don't explain it to us, and we're like, excuse. Boop. Sorry, I had to take a screenshot of something from my dad. Hermione, Harry, Ginny, Luna, Dean, Seamus, and Neville grinned. I grinned up at them. I was beginning to think you all forgot. I chuckled. They all rolled their eyes before Luna excitedly pointed at the foot of the bed. Open your presents, she exclaimed, practically bouncing on the balls of her feet. I grinned at her before leaning over my bed and grabbing the closest present I could see. It was medium-sized, wrapped in maroon wrapping paper with a note. I opened the present and almost screamed. It was a glass wizard's chess set. Oh boy, that's gonna go everywhere, and it's gonna hurt when it breaks too. Well, all of them will hurt, but do they form back together when you are done playing them, or is that just not it? You just break your set and that's it. It's done for. Thanks, Miney, I grinned, pulling her down into a hug. I then opened Harry's present, except this time I did scream. It's a Nimbus 2003. Oh, Harry, I screamed, practically beaming at him. I gave him a hug as well before diving into the other presents. I got a big pillow that resembled Quidditch goalpost from Dean, a box of pumpkin patties from Seamus, a Venice flytrap plant from Neville, a packet of Drubal's best blowing gum from Ginny, and a pair of those funny glasses from Luna that can apparently trace Raxperts. Probably didn't say that right. But they probably didn't spell it right either. But you never know anymore. Don't know what those are. I smiled at everyone and gave them each a big hug before we got dressed and left for breakfast, making sure I kept the familiar ring from 2 days ago hidden in my pocket. When we got to the Gryffindor table, a lot of Gryffindors turned to face us and shouted happy birthday to me. I blushed at the attention and thanked everyone. Just as we were about to sit down, another happy birthday shouted through the hall. I looked towards the door. Zabini was standing there, Parkinson and Malfoy at the other side with the biggest grin on their faces. What? Did you see her? Harry started, but I cut him off because I already knew that what he was about to say. Yes, I did. Zabini and I have the same birthday. I sneered. Oh. Don't sneer. You guys had a moment. Don't sneer. Calm down. Pet Karen, calm down. Anyways, let's go on. Don't sneer. You guys had your frenemies with benefits. Get used to it. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Ron and Zabini. Happy birthday to you. I'm not singing any more than that, but there you go. You get a snippet. I'm not really singing, but there you go. Harry started, but yeah. I watched him as he sat down. He was wearing a white turtleneck and white ripped jeans. Oh, white jeans. Oh, ow! I don't think I can ever pull those off because I'm too dark skinned. With black combat boots. That I can deal with. Black combat boots. But the problem is, if I wear white, something's gonna go wrong and me ruining white. That's the problem. He looked great. Shivering, I rid my head of the thought before an owl came swooping through the window onto Zabini's shoulder. He took the letter and gave the owl a piece of toast before it flew away. Seconds later, I get a similar looking owl flew toward us, landing on the table right in front of me, barely missing a jug of milk. Hermione and Harry peered towards me and waited for me to open it. I did so and stared pointedly at the black letter with white, curly handwriting on it. To Ronald Bilius Weasley. Dear grandson, I hope you are having a splendid 18th birthday. I know this may be a very confusing for you, and I understand before you need to keep looking but you need to keep looking. The answer will reveal themselves in time. Try to make as many alliances as you can, especially with other species. The consequences could be dire. I am writing this letter centuries in advance, but you must not trust the rest of your kind. My life is soon coming to an end, and once I'm dead and the other vampires will stop at nothing to get to you. You have a very valuable asset, and they will do anything to get to it. I wish I got the chance to meet you, but my time is nearly over. Tell your mother I miss her, will you? There should be something waiting for you in your bedroom. A little birthday present from me to you. It was mine centuries ago. Well, not exactly, 'cause you'll only read this years after I've written it. But be careful. Great dangers lie ahead. If it helps, go to the restricted section of the Hogwarts library. I mean, Molly would have taken you to school there. It's where I went to school. There is a book there that should explain the prophecy that is yet to come. Remember, Ronald, don't trust your own kind. Most vampires have turned to those of Voldemort. Yes, I know, even though it's years before Voldemort existed. I have sources that tell me you've already experienced a war. Well, with Riddle dead in your time, the vampires are probably looking for you. Their only source of power. Just promise me to protect him and yourself. You're both very powerful, and as I said before, the vampires will stop at nothing to get that power. On that note, I have to go before they find me. Good luck, Ron, and goodbye. Love, your great ×6 grandfather. Sagnus Billis Thornhold. Date 1st of November, 1400. The Burrow. Dang, the Burrow's that old? Hold on. Another letter or another morning. Ron's POV. I read the letter twice, then a third time before Hermione got impatient and snatched it out of my hands. Reading it out loud to Harry, they both gasped at the letter before handing it back to me. What's he talking about? What danger? Hermione asked, running a hand through her curly brown hair. Oh, who is this he's telling you to protect? Harry added. I rubbed my head and irritably before looking at him. I don't know. Ugh. And he knew my mother. She never told us about this, I said, quite angry that my mother would keep something like this from me. Ron, he said he left you a present for your birthday in your room, Hermione said, frantically checking the letter. My eyes went wide. The three of us practically bolted out of the Great Hall, nearly knocking the trio over as we did. We ran into the boys' dormitory and towards my bed. Lying in the center of the duvet lay a small red box with the letters ST written on it in shiny gold. What are the letters for? ST. What's his name again? It was something. ST, huh? Harry asked, examining the box without touching it. Not letters. No. Initials? Cygnus Thornhold? Hermione corrected him. She took her wand and said a spell. The box levitated for a few seconds before falling back on the bed. No traps, she sighed. And with that, I picked up the box hesitantly and opened it. My mouth fell a bit. I stared motionless at the beautiful ruby necklace sitting inside. The necklace had a golden chain and a pendant with a ruby the shape of a diamond inside, and 2 sharp pieces of gold lapped over it like fangs. I hope the description made sense. It does. I understand it. I dropped the box onto the bed and put it on. When I did, it glowed brightly, and the 3 of us all went up to shield their eyes. Hold on, something fell out of the box, Harry said, pointing to it, before carefully picking it up and pulling out whatever practically fallen out. It's a note addressed to you, he said, turning it around. Find your other half before it's too late. Harry read. What does that mean? I asked. No one in particular. Harry and Hermione shrugged. Well, actually, I think it means we need to do what your grandfather says and go to the restricted section tonight, Harry added, a smug look on his face for remembering. I chuckled a bit before tucking the necklace into my hoodie. Yeah, behind it, so like he's wearing it still, like I do all the time. I like to wear it on the outside though, so I'm not ashamed of it. Well, he's not ashamed of it either, but it will attract attention, a lot of it. Say we go celebrate, Harry cheered. Fire whiskey on me? Oh my gosh! Wait a minute. Wait, in 18, poop. In the world of the UK, well, this is the world, but I mean, the age of drinking is 18, correct? Or is that just, because here it's 21. It used to be 18 because people could go to war at 18 and smoke at 18, but no, they moved it back to 21. Oh well, whatever. Fire whiskey on me. It's a birthday cold Saturday. It's a beautiful cold Saturday. And your birthday. Come on. He grinned before wrapping his arms around Hermione and my shoulders and leading us out the room. Plays POV. I shuffled in my bed and the sound of people rushing filled my ears. The voices were muffled and sounded quite stressed. I stretched silently and sat up on my bed, opening my eyes slowly. Draco, Pansy, Millie, Theo, Astora, and Vincent were all bustling around the 8th year boys' dormitory and apparently hadn't noticed I had woken up. You know, he hates those. Why would you put them there, Vin? Pansy whispered. Where should I put my present? Astora said, almost nervously. Right there, Draco said, pointing to the foot of the bed. I was now sitting cross-legged on my bed. Still, no one had noticed me. Good morning, I finally said. The silence had started to eat at me. Everyone froze. Theo nearly dropped a large wrapped box. Happy birthday, Blaze! They all cheered at me before tackling me in a large group hug. Aw, thank you guys. I grinned. Before, open your presents, Millie urged, and with that, I leaned over my bed and opened the first one. Oh, Pan, it's gorgeous. I smiled at Pansy, who had a nostalgic grimace plastered on her face. You haven't called me that since we were 5. It hit me like with that pan. I'm guessing she got hit in the face with a pan. I mean, have you ever seen that video? Oh, we're gonna make pizza, and the person who was on the ground, they got smacked with the pizza pan. And everyone lost it. That's what it reminds me of. You have, she said, a small smile gracing her dark red lips. Yeah, me and her have the same style, pretty much. I looked down at the silver flute in my lap, and beamed. I then opened a present wrapped in black and white striped and wrapping paper. And Draco got me, oh my Merlin's hairy ass. Draco Lucius Malfoy, you didn't! I shouted, howling with laughter slightly. Shortly after, Draco smirked down at the large pillow shaped as a carrot, the carrot slippers, the carrot trophy, and the black beanie. And I got a black beanie and hugged him. I got up. Wait, what? The black beanie with some carrot on it that he had gotten me. I got up, hugged him. He must like carrots. I mean, I don't like uncooked carrots because it hurts my teeth when I bit into them when I was a kid. But I like cooked carrots. I love them in a stew. I love them in different types of soups. I like them as a side dish. Not a side chick, but a side dish. I'm not a side dish. I'm the whole dang meal. That's what I am. Oh boy. No one's gonna ever let me live that down. I got up, hugged him, and opened the other presents. Vincent had gotten me the latest Beater's Bat cleaner. Said that I had needed for my Quidditch bat. Astoria and Millie had paired up and got me the largest jar of lollipops I have ever seen, and Theo got me 2 pairs of my favorite brand of shoes. 1 pair of black combat boots. Damn right! Combat boots. I want those for my birthday. Combat boots are so good. I think they're also like maybe steel-toed as well. Oh, I love boots. Oh, they covered my leg a little bit. I like it goes up to my knee sometimes. It can go up to my knee. It can go up to mid, I forgot what that was called. Mid-calf. I know what I'm talking about. Uh-huh. It's been a while. Don't get me wrong. And pair of white ankle high Converse. Okay. We all hugged again before I thanked everyone and left to go shower. I was done. Draco and Pansy and I walked towards the Great Hall, and before we got there, we heard a muffled happy birthday. Oh, right. It's Weaselby's birthday, too. Today. Forgot. Draco deadpanned, and I stared at him with a look of disbelief. And you chose to tell me this now? I said. He smirked before laughing slightly. I rolled my eyes as we entered the Great Hall, but stopped the action when I heard the whole Slytherin table shout happy birthday in my direction, making me grin like a madman. I chanced to glance at Weasley and saw that he was irritated, making me smile much more. We sat why are you guys going at it? My goodness. They were worried about you, that he was even nicer to you after the incident happened. Why are you so mean? I don't get it. Then again, I'm such an Italian type of person. I get mad at someone and then I forget about it. I'm like, oh, wait. I'm sorry I was mad at you. It happens. I have uncontrolled rage. We sat down and started eating our food before an owl swooped down on my shoulders and gave me a letter. Pansy and Draco stopped eating and turned to watch. I looked at the letter and graciously before giving the owl a piece of my toast, and it flew away. To Blaise Zabini, Hogwarts. Dear son, I know you and I know you, and you probably don't know me. I am your birth father. I know you're getting this letter 18 years into the future. But that's what I'm planning on. Your mother has recently figured out that I am a giant who can shift. At the moment, she is currently pregnant with you. But, Blaise, there are many dangers to what you will become. Many people want you. We are currently on the run in Germany, hiding from those so-called people. I'm sure you already know of your DNA being level 5 giant blood. I was a level 5 giant, making you a big target. But you must know, stay close with the other half. Don't lose the people close to you. I know the Malfoys, Knots, and the Parkinsons have been alliances with the Zabinis for years. Don't lose them. Son, you have to promise me one thing. Protect him and yourself to the best of your abilities. He is also valuable. Use your special ability at its best. If it means protecting the both of you. You probably have the same ability as I did. I can't risk writing it down. These people will stop at nothing to grasp that type of power. Great dangers lie ahead. Be vigilant and stay strong. I know you're going to grow up to be a handsome, strong boy. And as you read this letter, I want you to know that your mother and I love you with all our hearts. The last thing I have to tell you is keep the ring your mother gave you close to you. It is a great asset and once was mine. Never lose sight of what is yours. I quote by Salazar Slytherin. Funny guy he is. Back at school, I would always sit in front of his portrait with a carrot to snack on, and he'd tell me of his journeys and rendezvous. What? Whatever. With Godric Gryffindor. But that's besides the point. Take what I have said into account, and remember, we have you, Blaise. We love you, Blaise, so much. Happy 18th birthday. Love, your father, Alexander Zabini, Berlin, Germany, the 1st of November, 1980. I mean, duh. Okay, that's weird. Hogsmeade. Blaise's POV. What does it say? Pansy said. I said nothing. Blaise, hello! She raised her voice, waving her egg-clawed fork in front of my face. I said nothing. Blaise! Draco screamed in my ear, and I jumped out of my seat, almost fell onto the floor. The letter? Pansy asked, and I sighed deeply before giving it to her. She held it and read it to Draco before both of them slowly turned in unison to face me. Your father? They said simultaneously. My mother never spoke of my father. Never told me his name. I never saw that what he looked like. I never knew my ring was his. I said, raking my memory for every time my mother came close to talking about him. In the letter, he talks about another half. And he, what does he mean? Draco explained. Exclaimed, I don't know. Why didn't my mother tell me? What did my mother never? My mother. Me. I don't know. Why didn't my mother tell me this? I mumbled furiously to myself. Pansy put a comforting hand on my shoulder, something she always did to console me before nuzzling into my side. We'll figure this out, Blaze, she whispered. I nodded and smiled fondly at her. And Draco, before, out of the habit, finding my left hand to fiddle with my ring. My father's ring. Blaze, you look sick. Are you okay? Draco asked, noticing my predicament face. It's not here. I whispered. What's not there? Pansy asked, leaving my side to look directly at me. The ring, I quivered. They both looked down at my middle finger before looking back up at me, with wide eyes. I must have lost it that day in the forest, I shouted. We'll find it. We just have to go back and look. After we go get some birthday fire whiskey, though. Oh, gosh. Fire whiskey, I heard, it's like cinnamon whiskey, not that good. And then again, I don't know if it's the same thing. Draco grinned. I gave him a tired chuckle, and Pansy just shook her head playfully. We got up and headed towards the door, almost being knocked over by a flash of ginger hair with startling green eyes and excited grin. The golden trio. Rude, I heard Draco complain behind me, before we all went back to the common room to get our bags for a trip to Hogsmeade. When Draco and I got into the boys' dormitory, I froze. On my bed was a middle-sized package in the middle of the mint green duvet. Oh, mint green. Oh, gosh, no. Oh, heck no. Mint green is not good. If it was like more of a grass green, like a dark grass green, that would be fine. But a mint, not really okay, but okay. Draco just must have noticed it too, because he stalked closer as well. I hesitantly picked up the package and unwrapped it. A small paper fell on to my feet. I picked it up and read aloud, "Happy birthday, Blaze, from Mom and Dad." Tears started to pool in my eyes, and my lower lip quivered. In the package was an old, kind of worn photo of two young people, a man and a woman. The man was holding the woman's hand, and in her hand held a bundle of blankets. A tear fell down my cheek, and I didn't bother to wipe it away. "He looks just like you," Draco whispered, hugging me from behind. I turned around in the hug and cried into his shorter shoulders. Oh, he's shorter? That's cute. We stayed like that for a while before I wiped my face quickly and evened out my breathing. "Thank you," I stammered. He gave me a quick hug before patting my arm. "Let's go. Pansy probably coming up here now too." But he stopped when we both heard Pansy's voice booming through the hallway. We chuckled before running out of the room, making sure I hid the photo under my pillow. We left the school grounds and walked along the snowy steps to Hogsmeade before stopping and entering the Three Broomsticks, where I swear I saw a glimpse of what looked like Potter chugging down a pint of fire whiskey. Pansy got a Madame Rose Marta first and made us sit on the bar stools and ordered us all a chilled glass of fire whiskey. After a few drinks, I was feeling slightly sick as I excused myself and went to take a walk. Fresh cold air was sobering me up when I drank, so the walk was pretty refreshing. I started trekking down the small road near the Shrieking Shack and took deep breaths in of the refreshing air. I gave an almighty yelp, though, when I felt something brush my back. "Zabini, what brings you here?" McLuggan taunted, and I rolled my eyes. "Not this guy again!" Oh, I would get pissed too. Ugh. Sorry, I had to sit back. What do you want, McLuggan? I sneered. He stepped closer and I took a step back. "I was thinking of giving you a personal birthday present, you know." I snickered He smirked before taking another step forward, shortly followed by me taking another step back. "I'm good, thanks, McLuggan," I said, malice lacing my words. He took a step forward and I took a step back again, hitting my back against a tree. "I don't remember it being a question," he snickered. "You're a choice." I tried to walk away, but he put his arms past my head on both sides of the tree, and I gulped. I shouldn't look ahead, but I'm getting so, antsy, you know? I gulped, fear starting to churn in my stomach. For the I don't even know how many times this week, I leaned closer until his horrible breath made my nose cringe, the disgusted sneer prominent on my face. My, you really are something to behold, aren't you?" He sighed. "I'm flattered. Goodbye," I mocked before pushing at his arms. He didn't budge. The fear in my stomach rose to my chest, and I felt like I couldn't move, like I was paralyzed. "McLuggan, don't do this," I heaved, my voice breaking and my breathing heavy. "Oh, you don't know what I could do to you." He smirked and closed the distance between us. Tears fell on my face as I tried to push him away, but he wouldn't move. I was shaking madly, making it hard to move my limbs, so I flailed against him, but his grasp was only tightening. He pushed me harder against the tree until our bodies were practically touching, making me cry even more. I squeezed my eyes shut, hoping it would all just go away and this would just be a bad dream. McLuggan snaked his hand around under my shirt and around my waist, making me wince at the cold, rough hands. But just as I knew he was about to go further, he jerked off of me and was lying on the ground, writhing in pain. "Don't you ever hurt my mate again! You hear me?" A deep rumbling against almost inhuman, familiar voice shouted. I looked up and saw the slightly blurry from tears, form of Weasley. His hair was crimson, skin pale, and eyes blazing red. Two sharp canines glistening against his normal teeth. Without a second thought, I ran towards him and threw my arms around him, crying silently into his shoulder. Out of the corner of my eye, I could see Potter and Granger watching in fear. I buried my head into Weasley's neck and cried. After a few seconds, I heard rustling footsteps, and Pansy and Draco's frantic voices appeared, and they must have seen me because Pansy shrieked and Draco screamed my name before they started running to me. I looked up for a moment and saw as Potter pulled Draco back, so did Granger with Pansy, both whispering something into their ears. Pansy and Draco looked at me with worried and scared eyes before nodding to the other two. The prophecy. How long have I been doing this for? Okay, let's keep on going. The prophecy. Ha 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 ha. Blaise's POV. I backed away from Weasley before staring at him. His hands were balled into fists. His crimson eyes were staring right at McLuggan. I slowly walked over to Pansy and Draco, who immediately encased me in a hug. Are you okay? Pansy fretted. I gave her a small smile. What happened? Draco asked. I guess I do owe them an explanation. McLuggan. He clear his throat. He forced himself on me, I said, wrapping my arms tighter around my middle. Draco and Pansy both gasped and staring menacing at McLuggan, who was unconscious on the floor. And I'm fine, though, I tried to reassure them. Blaise, you were crying. You never cry, Pansy said, looking close to tears. She is poorly mistaken, I thought, remembering when I cried on Draco's shoulder in the dormitory. At that moment, the Golden Trio turned towards us, and we all just stared at them, at each other for a minute. Zabini, I'm sure this belongs to you, Weasley said, fishing his hand into his pocket and taking out my ring. Where did you... I started, but I was cut off. When he handed it to me, it glowed. So much that we all shielded our eyes. Weasley, Draco said, pointing to the ginger's chest. And he put his hand inside of his hoodie and brought out his golden chain with the red ruby on it. My ring glowed less now, but it was still vibrant with color. So was Weasley's necklace. I looked up at him. He had his eyebrows furrowed, staring pointedly at me. Other half? Granger and Pansy muttered under their breaths. We all turned to them. They stared at each other for a moment before a light blush appeared on Pansy's face. Are you all right, Zabini? Potter asked, breaking the very awkward silence. Yeah, I'm fine, I said, looking everywhere but the Gryffindors. Blaise, your eyes are black now, Pansy muttered, and the Golden Trio must have noticed because they all looked at me. Confusion written all over the faces. Blaise, you need to calm down, Draco hissed, and I scorned in his direction before Granger spoke up. Okay, what's going on? She said, pointing to me. We could ask you the same question, Pansy sneered. Granger took the step forward. Why are Zabini's eyes all black? Granger snapped. Why are Weasley's look like a human tomato? Human tomato. Pansy snapped back. Well, why is his ring glowing? Granger asked. Weasley's neck is glowing too! Pansy almost shrieked. Shut up! Everyone whipped around, and Pansy even fell at the voice. Weasley looked pissed, very pissed. If you want answers, we'll get them, but you have to give us answers too. he said, crossing his arms. "Tomorrow, in the room of requirements, 10 o'clock, Potter said. Everyone nodded before the trio parted ways. Third person. There have been many times where Ron has been confused, but never in his life has he been this confused. As the Slytherin trio left, he felt his hair, skin, and eyes go back to normal. The necklace around his neck stopped glowing. He heaved a tired sigh and sat on a large rock. "You know, the only problem is we don't even have answers," he sighed, and Harry nodded before sitting next to him. "We have to get that book from the restricted section. It may be our only chance to..." My package is here. Fuck yeah! Yes, bitch. It's mine. 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 I'm sorry, that sounded evil. Okay. Sit back down. It may be our only chance to fully understand what's happening, Hermione said, a very determined look on her face. The boys nodded and got up. The three of them trekked back to Hogwarts. What happened back there? Ron asked himself as they walked. He had called Zabini something, but for some reason he couldn't remember what it was. Only that it meant something powerful. Later that day, Harry, do you have the cloak? Hermione asked once Ron and Harry reached the bottom of the landing. Yeah, I've got the map as well, Harry said, holding up the Marauders map. Wands? Hermione asked. Both boys took out their wands, and with that final thing checked, they put the cloak on and left the Gryffindor common room. They ran down the marble staircase towards the library. Guys, Filch! Harry scream whispered. The three of them froze as Mrs. Norris and the Filch, the caretaker and his cat, rounded a corner into the corridor they were in. They backed up against the wall, watched Mr. Filch stumble forward and stopped a few steps in front of them. A smell of cretins. Does it mean critters? Cretins, maybe. I don't know. It doesn't spell right. So. He mumbled. Must be more of them dung booms. Dung booms. I'm telling ya, he said angrily, stomping away into the other corridor. Hermione heaved a long sigh, and they capped again when they reached the library's restricted section. Hermione took out her wand and muttered, Alohomora. The lock clicked open, and they walked in. What do we look for? Ron asked, pulling off the invisibility cloak. Vampires and prophecies, I guess, Harry mumbled, and the three of them got to work. After a while, Harry stopped everyone. Ron, Hermione, look. He looked. He said, going on his tippy toes, and taking out a thick white book. The myths and legends of vampire folklore? Harry, what does that have to do with the prophecy? Myths and legends aren't real. Hermione scolded. Harry rolled his eyes. Well, it's something, he said irritably. He started paging through the book and yelped. I found it! What did I tell you, Hermione? The prophecy is here. All of it. Harry beamed. Brilliant. Read the part we don't know, Ron said, leaning over the stack of books on the table they were all working on. Giganti. Sicut sangus vercos Vincent Metallia Meltia Lamia ut fortis que autumn faucet altruisque fortur combined in sanguin und montes transforma. So whoever said that spell in the beginning put the guy into more of a giant, or at least his giant side. Hey guys, I'm back. If you haven't heard yet, if you're not on my Discord or Instagram, you probably haven't heard that I had an accident. I got into a car accident on Sunday. It is currently Monday. And I have only bruised knees, and it's hard to breathe sometimes. But then again, I've always had bad ribs. So I can't tell you the full detail, but I might not be able to have my bug anymore. My favorite little beastie ever, but I just wanted you to know that I'm all right. People in the other car are all right. The thing is that I was the one driving as well, and it freaked me out so much. It's one of my biggest fears, and it happened, and it's not fun. Of course not, but I mean, it's just kind of rattling, and I don't want to be stuck at home, so I'm literally just going to read the story, because if I dwell on things, I will literally cry more, because I just hate everything and blah. But I also have a special recording at the end that I will add, but that's then, and this is now. We're going to be reading more of the Blairon story, and if you're wondering, wait, how long ago did you record this? It was Friday when I started reading this story. Well, I mean, reading this part of the story anyways, this episode. I just wanted to apologize to all of you. You guys were probably worried about me, but I just wanted to let you know that it's all good. Everything's going well, and you guys don't have to worry about it. Realization. I groggily sat up and rubbed my eyes. It was still slightly dark out, and I checked the clock in the dormitory. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. How did I wake up so early? I asked myself. Usually on Sunday, I would always wake up at 7. I guess not. I slipped out of my, I slipped into my carrot skippers. Do you mean like your slippers? Not skippers. Slippers Draco had gotten me, and decided to take a walk. Not the smartest idea, but I was bored, listening to Theo snoring. I shuffled through the empty corridors of Hogwarts, pulling my jacket closer closer around me. I turned a corner and almost tripped when I heard a voice. I peeked over the corner of the corridor and almost squealed. I don't know. What do you think they would say? A shorter boy with raven black hair asked someone else who was even more covered by the shadows of the darkness outside. Ron and Hermione already know I'm bi. What about you? Is that Potter? I asked myself, squinting in the darkness to get a better view. The other person that knows I'm gay is Blaise, but it's quite obvious, said the other boy. Draco? I almost laughed out loud. Draco and Potter were in a relationship. Now that I think about, it explains a lot. Draco took a step from the darkness, put his pale finger under Potter's chin, and lifted his face to meet his gaze, before smirking and leaning down to place a kiss on Potter's lips. I smirked to myself before slinking out of the corridor. Once I was out of earshot, I ran back to the common room and waited. Draco's POV. I kissed Harry goodbye once more before going our separate ways. As I entered the boys' dormitory, I jumped and screamed when I saw Blaise sitting with one leg over the other, his hand under his chin, looking at me with a mischievous glint in his eyes. When were you going to tell me you were snogging the boy who lived? He asked bluntly. Grinning widely, he looked like a madman. I don't know what you're talking about, I said, rummaging in my bag for my outfit for the day. Don't play dumb with me, Draco. I've known you since we were 3. I know when you're lying, he said, standing up to look for his own clothing. And what might that be? What do I do when I'm lying? I asked, hoping to catch him off guard. You start itching your ankles with your other foot and your nose quivers, he said instantly, as if it was rehearsed. Frowning, I looked at the body-length mirror. My nose was indeed quivering, and my foot was really itchy. Yeah, fine, yes. Harry and I are seeing each other. But I started. Don't tell me. It's one-time thing. I saw the way you looked at him. He told me. I could practically feel the smirk radiating off of him. I scoffed before turning to face him. Do you think he really likes me? I asked him. Blaise's facial expression changed instantly into one of seriousness and walked closer to me and sat down on my bed, taking a seat before a moment later. Draco, you know me. For the past, I don't even know how many years at Hogwarts. I've been observing the things I noticed most. Every single time it's you and Potter. There's undeniable chemistry there that maybe you can't see, but it practically radiates. He said sincerely, Go with the flow. See where it takes you. He smiled. I was about to say something, but was cut off when Theo let out a loud snore. Blaise and I glared at his sleeping form before bursting out laughing. At 10 p.m., Ron, hurry up! We're already late, Hermione hissed from the door to the bathroom. Sorry, it's not my fault. Bladders are a thing, I hissed back. I heard Harry snort. After washing my hands, we practically ran to ROR. What do we do now? I asked. What if they're already gone in? Hold on. I have an idea, Harry said. He closed his eyes and mumbled under his breath, started to pace. He walked in front of the door for a few seconds before a stone door appeared on the once blank wall. Let's hope it works, he said before pushing it open. When we opened it, we saw Malfoy and Parkinson and Sabini all sitting on the red couch in a room that looked like both the Slytherin and Gryffindor common rooms mixed together. It was cozy and warm. A fire crackling in the awkward silence. We thought you weren't going to make it for a second there. Malfoy chuckled. Harry and Hermione sat on the 2 armchairs opposite of the Slytherins, leaving me to sit next to Parkinson, who had patted the place next to her with a smile on her face. Okay, you go first, she said after making enough space for me. All right. As you all know, we were ambushed on the first day of school on the train, Hermione stated. They all nodded. Harry began to tell them exactly what had happened on the Hogwarts Express, how I became a vampire, then about my dream of the lady and the prophecy. Then of the letter and the necklace, which I took out and showed them. Then Hermione took out the book and we got yesterday from the restricted section and gave it to them. That's all we've got, Hermione ended with a long sigh. The 3 of them all looked up spontaneously before Malfoy began to speak. Well, on the second day of school, I woke up and was about to shout out at Blaise because he was snoring like a, ow! Right, sorry, he said, receiving an elbow to the stomach by Blaise, by Zabini, who still hadn't spoken a word since we got here. Anyway, I was going to wake him up because he was snoring so loudly, and when I turned to his bed, I found that he had changed, he said. We all arched our eyebrows, confused. What do you mean changed? I asked. Zabini shrugged his shoulders and straightened up. He means when I woke up, my head almost went through the ceiling, he said in a slightly aggravated tone. They began to tell us about the morning they found out Zabini was half giant and a bloody powerful one at that. You're level 5? Hermione asked, running a hand through her hair. Yeah, he answered, shrugging his shoulders again. I was wondering, did you guys translate the whole prophecy? Parkinson asked, and Hermione nodded, taking a piece of paper out from her bag and handing it to her. Blood in its finest is blood untorn. Blood torn loses purity. Purity in its finest starts with the blood of a king and ends with the blood of a warrior. Giant. Blood and strength is one conquers all evil. The vampire is strong as one, but the giant makes it stronger. The combined blood can move mountains. When she finished reading, all eyes were shifting quickly from me to Zabini. What? I asked. Zabini put his face in his hands and groaned. What's going on? What do you guys know that I don't? I asked, getting annoyed by the shifting stares. The prophecy is about you 2. Finally, the trios find it out. Yeah. Took them long enough. Anyway, sorry, the storyline is a little messy right now. I'm working on it, and it's like a puzzle piece. Slowly coming to a puzzle It's pretty much like a puzzle, slowly coming together. Anyway, hope you guys are enjoying this so far. Bye. Pillow screams. Oh, jeez. No. I can only know what this means. I choked. I choked like I had never choked before. Oh, my. I fell to the ground coughing, and Parkinson frantically knelt down beside me and started hammering my back with her fist so hard that I actually worked for once. Thanks, Parkinson. I mumbled, sitting back down on the couch and giving her a tired smile. Please call me Pansy. She grinned sincerely, and it warmed my heart a bit. Sorry, what were we talking about? I asked, turning back around to face the others. You and Zabini are the giant and the vampire that they talk about in the prophecy, Hermione informed, nodding, almost as if she were replying to herself. My eyes immediately moved to Zabini, who groaned silently. What's wrong? Malfoy asked, and he just lowered his eyes and shook his head. Well, I think the first thing we should do is inform McGonagall, Harry said, and we all nodded in agreement. We'll go after dinner tomorrow, Malfoy said, as we all stood up. Right. Good night, Malfoy, Parkinson, Zabini. Harry smiled. Draco, Pansy, and Blaise. Potter. If we're going to work together, might as well forget about formalities, said the blonde, smirking slightly. You too, Weasley Granger, he said, turning to me and Hermione in return. All right, then it's Ron, Hermione, and Harry. Got it? I said, and he chuckled. Good night, Pansy said, and they all left the R&R. I say R&R, it's R-O-R, sorry. Roar. Roar. Well, was enlightening. Hermione heaved out a laugh. We all laughed for a moment before leaving after the Slytherins. Halfway to the Gryffindor common room, we were about to pass the stairs, going down into the dungeons, paying no attention to the conversation Harry and Hermione were in. I looked down into the dungeon's dark corridors, creepy as ever. Hey! I was harshly yanked down the steps into the darkness and of the dungeons. Harry and Hermione seemed not to have noticed. I pulled out my wand and muttered, Lumos. Zabini, what are you doing? I whispered. He held out a hand, and I reluctantly took it. He pulled me up, and we were face to face. I'm sorry, he said, looking down at me with guilty eyes. Sorry about what? I said, furrowing my eyebrows. All about all of this. We were both dragged into this unwillingly, and I just wanted to apologize. I've already apologized to myself and figured I would with you, seeing as our ancestors did not warn us sooner, and it's a lot to handle. He said. I stared at him. For once in my life, I felt my unbeating heart vibrate inside of me, and I smiled. It's not your fault. Besides, we've already snogged like 4 times, I said, and he snorted. 3, actually, he corrected, and I snorted louder than he had. I didn't know you were counting, I smirked. Well, someone has to, he scoffed. I stood in silence after that. I ignored the blush slowly creeping up my neck. Happy belated birthday, by the way, she added, and I chuckled. Yeah, happy birthday to you too. Ron, where did you go? Harry asked me when I woke up the Monday morning. Bathroom? I muttered, and he nodded, rolling on his side. I rolled a bit more and screamed into my pillow, he rolled over a bit and screamed into his pillow, making me jump and fall off my bed. Bloody hell, Harry, what's wrong? I asked, rubbing my rear. I like Malfoy, he said, a frown on his face. Excuse me? I said, standing up. I like Malfoy. There, I said it. I fancy Draco Lucius Malfoy very much, he shouted, a big grin on his face. I want to cuddle him and kiss him. I want him to put his Harry! I shouted before he finished the sentence. He shook his head quickly and stared at me, as if he hadn't a clue that what he was doing just a few seconds ago. How long have you been in denial? I choked. I chortled. And he slumped back into his bed. Since first year, he mumbled almost inaudibly, and I just stared. The handshake. Safe places. You wanted to speak with me, Mr. Weasley? Professor McGonagall said as the six of us entered her office. Is everything all right? She asked. Well, can someone else explain? I whispered. Hermione stepped up and started speaking. Oh, I was afraid this would happen. McGonagall said wearily. Wait, you knew? I asked angrily. Why didn't she tell us? I had my suspicions about the prophecy when you were turned, Mr. Weasley, but when Mr. Zabini went through his inheritance, I had to be completely sure, she said, looking at the two of us. Professor, if you don't mind me asking, who are the people that the letters say we need to protect from each other from? Blaise asked hesitantly. The vampires that ambushed the train, she replied. But why? Harry chimed in. McGonagall took in a large breath before she started speaking again in a grave tone. You see, they were looking for Mr. Weasley because he is the descendant of the Thornhold family, the most powerful vampire family to have ever existed. By turning Mr. Weasley into a vampire, all the Thornhold genes and power came flooding back into his system, making him the most powerful vampire in our time since all Thornhold vampire descendants are either human or dead. When you mix a vampire blood like that with the genes of something as powerful as a level 5 half-giant, you might as well call yourself the most powerful being in the universe. The bond between the vampire and the giant is similar to a vela bond, except for the pain part. For instance, Mr. Weasley, when someone tries to harm Mr. Zabini, you will notice you go into your full form, the red hair, the eyes, the fangs, pale skin, and all of that. Whereas Mr. Zabini, if Mr. Weasley is being harmed, your eyes will go black and you'll grow a very alarming size, and only Mr. Weasley can stop that from happening by calming you down. if not growth, Mr. Zabini, when you are scared, you will be able to access your special ability. When McGonagall stopped talking, I let out a large sigh. That was a lot to take in at once, and she doesn't look like she's finished. I must warn you, though, Mr. Weasley. At some point, some will click in your system, and Mr. Zabini's blood will become more provoking, very provoking, if it will be the only thing you want to drink. So please be careful, because if you drink Mr. Zabini's blood, you will both inhabit each other's powers in a short period of time. So please, boys, be careful. You made a good decision coming to me. I'm here if you need any clarification, she said. Blaise and I nodded before we thanked Professor McGonagall and left her office. Well, that was a lot. Pansy joked, and I chuckled nervously, remembering the time I almost drank Zabini's blood by accident. The end of the week. I'm going back to the common room. I still need to do my astronomy, I told Harry and Hermione. I got up from the Gryffindor table, my flask in my hand. They both nodded before resuming their dinner. I took another big swig of my beverage before walking out of the great hall. I was walking down the corridor when I heard voices. So, being a curious person, I am listening. I know you want me. Oh, the cringe. Ow. The cringe is hurting me. I said, a voice that I recognized as McLuggan. How many times do I have to tell you to leave me alone? Said the other voice. Blaise. McLuggan, you really shouldn't. I couldn't anymore. I ran into the corridor so quickly my head started spinning a bit. All of a sudden, all my senses heightened, and I felt like I was being pulled away from my own body. I told you to not touch my mate, McLuggan. And yet you ignored me. Weasley, what's wrong with you? What are you? He said, cowering on the floor. I picked him up by the neck and he wrapped fiercely around my hand. I'm something you shouldn't mess with, I whispered, before throwing him on the other side of the corridor, watching him as he scrambled away. I turned my focus back to Blaise. He looked terrified. His eyes were black, and his breathing was heavy and uneven. I took his hand and started leading him away from the corridor. Where are we going? He asked, his voice shaking, which broke my heart. Somewhere where I think you'll be able to relax, I told him, and after a few minutes we climbed the stairs of the astronomy tower. I sat him on the railing and stood in front of and made him stand right in front of me. Snow was slowly falling, and the air felt fresh against my face. How did you know this place would relax me? He whispered, because that night when I came to apologize to you, you were singing here. You looked so peaceful, so I figured this was a safe place, if you will, I said, and he gave me a small smile before jumping down from the railing. So we were level. His eyes went back to normal, and he hugged me. I smiled and nuzzled my face into his chest. Hey, Ron. My body tingled, my stomach nodded, the feeling coming back as he said my name. Yes? I murmured back. Go to Hogsmeade with me tomorrow? He whispered and I grinned. Sure. Sharing is caring. It was Saturday today, and Ron was nervous. He didn't even know why he was so nervous for his Hogsmeade trip with Blaze, but his stomach curled every time he thought about it. The snow was thick outside, and Ron had put on his Quidditch jersey, a maroon overcoat, and a pair of dark jeans. His Gryffindor scarf was hanging loosely from his neck, and he was quite proud that he had remembered to wear it after eating breakfast. With Harry and Hermione, he started slowly walking to Hogsmeade. The air whipped his hair in many directions, and he fidgeted with it until it looked pretty untamed. After almost like Harry's hair, just not as bad. Ahead of him, he could see 3 figures. One of them was wearing platform heels. Another was wearing a beanie. The last one was wearing a scarf similar to his, the color unknown because it was quite far away. Wanting to get a better look at them was in front of him. Ron walked forward until he heard their voices against the blistering cold wind. Remember, when we all took a bath together that one time when we were 5? Said a voice in heels. Pansy? Yes. Magical times, said the voice with the scarf. Draco. And remember when we would all jump in the fountain and Malfoy Manor, hoping we'd become fish, said the voice wearing the beanie. And remember the time Ronald Weasley snuck up behind you to eavesdrop? No, he was coming towards you. You didn't see him? He was walking towards you. Ron's POV. Blimey, Ron! Don't scare me like that. Pansy screamed, clutching her heart firmly. Sorry, I chuckled against my hand. Where are the others? Draco asked, looking around. Hermione wanted to get some extra studying in, and Harry has a cold. I said, hoping that Harry is doing fine on his own. Oh, you know what? I think I left something in the castle. Bye, Draco said, hurrying off in the opposite direction. He's probably going to take care of Harry, said Pansy, smiling. Yeah. Anyway, Pansy, Hermione wanted to know if you would like to study with her. She's studying charms. Offered to help you with your Patronus charm. I said, wiggling my eyebrows a bit. I might as well, she said, offhandedly. But I could see the grin she was trying to hide. And then there were 2. Blaise sighed, and I chuckled. So what did you want to do today? I asked him, and he pondered the question. Hey, how about honeydukes? And then the 3 broomsticks? He said, and I smiled. Perfect. Blaise and I walked into Honeydukes and watched as the students and the locals bustling around the store immediately went to the chocolate frogs. I looked at the price and frowned. 3 galleons. Ugh, which I fished my hand inside my pocket. Only had a few sickles. I had only a few sickles. Blaze came up to me from behind and putting his hands on my shoulders to let me know that he was there before standing next to me. "What's the matter?" he said. I blushed before patting my pocket. I don't have enough money, so you can get what you need to. We can get some butterbeer," I said, smiling, trying to hide my embarrassment. Blaze chuckled before taking 20 chocolate frogs and putting them in his pocket. He paid for them before we left the store. "Here." He handed me the packet of frogs. What am I supposed to do with this?" I asked, baffled as to why he gave it to me. "To keep it, of course," he said, as if it were obvious. I furrowed my eyebrows before opening my mouth to speak. "But no buts, Weasley. They're yours now," he said, before walking ahead of me towards the 3 broomsticks. I blinked a few times before running to catch up with him. "Thank you," I mumbled, and he smiled sincerely at me. We entered the 3 broomsticks and sat down at a table in the corner. Madame Rosemerta skipped towards us with a notebook in her hand. "Ah, Ron, son, how has it been? I didn't see you last year. How's your mum?" She said, and I smiled up at her. "She's been doing fine, madam. I hope all is well with you," I said politely, and she chuckled. "How many times do I have to tell you? It's Rose, none of that madam stuff, and all right? Anyway, who's this handsome fella you've got with you?" She grinned, turning to Blaze. "Blaze Zabini, madam," Blaze said, shaking her hand, in which she pulled him into a hug instead. "Rose, darling, and it's nice to meet you, Blaze." "What can I get you kids?" she asked, and Blaze ordered a glass of butterbeer while I took out my special flask. "You didn't tell me you knew her," Blaze said as she left. "Yeah, before the war, Harry, Hermione, and I would come here often," I told him, and he nodded. I've actually never been here. This is my first time," he said, and I stared at him in shock. "Yeah, neither has Pansy, and Draco's been here once before, though," he said, looking around the pub. "Yeah, we saw him, actually," I said, laughing a little. "That must have been awkward," he laughed, and I pushed his arm. "You know, now that I think about it, we don't know much about each other except for the basics," he said, and this sparked my attention. "True. How about we take turns in asking each other questions?" I asked, and he nodded happily. "Okay. What is your full name?" he asked, and I blushed. "Ronald Bilius Weasley," I mumbled, and he laughed. "Stop laughing!" "What about you, then? What's your full name?" I retorted, and he rolled his eyes. And playfully. "Blaze Billinor Zabini," he said proudly, and I chuckled. "Okay, where are you from?" he asked, and he looked at me funny. "Can you not tell where I'm from?" I speak, and he inquired. and I shook my head. The only accent I ever heard in his voice was British. I must have grown out of it. Anyway, I'm Italian. I'm Italian too! I don't speak it. I wish I could. Oh my goodness. You want to know where I want to go? I want to go to Italy and Paris and Germany. I want to go all over the Europe and Asia, and you know what? Just have fun, just to learn different cultures and different ways of life. And just learn my roots, He laughed and I pushed his arm. Oh wait, blah 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 blah. He said, which shocked me quite a bit. Favorite color? He asked. Red. It's quite obvious. You? He said, and he nodded. Yellow. He answered, and I kept playing until we lost complete track of it and started talking about everything and nothing. Our families, our childhoods, our pasts, our problems, our likes, our dislikes, pretty much everything you could think of. And let me just say, I haven't laughed like I have today in a while, and it was refreshing. I really like spending time with Blaze. I just wish our day together didn't have to end so quickly. Exposed. Blaze and I walked into the Great Hall after our day in Hogsmeade together, planning on hanging out some more in the ROR after dinner. But our plans were suddenly foiled when I was immediately embraced by the thick, blondish brunette hair. Hi, Wan. Murder me now. Oh, my word. Okay, Lavender exclaimed flirtatiously, knocking Blaze to the ground. Whoops. Oh, Harry's POV. Lavender had just gone up to Ron, even when he told her he wasn't interested. She pushed Blaze out of the way, knocking him to the floor to hug Ron, and Ron looked absolutely appalled and confused. But the thing that made the whole situation worse was Blaze's eyes were black. Lavender, please, Ron said, but she cut him off. Please take us somewhere private. Sure, she said, biting her lip, dragging Ron from the Great Hall. At this moment, Hermione and I were standing a few steps away from Ron, and Draco and Pansy were helping Blaze off the ground. Lavender, I don't like you. I never will. Ron shouted, bringing the whole hall's attention to the scene playing out. I could hear Pansy and Draco trying to reassure Blaze, but by the looks of it, he wasn't taking any of it. And why is that? I'm perfect for you. In what way, shape, or form? Ron shouted back, and Lavender screeched, making Ron wince. I like someone else. Ron shouted back, Ron shouted back, and Lavender visibly paled. Well, who is it then? She shouted, and Ron rolled his eyes. I don't see how that's any of your Lavender! Hermione screamed. Lavender had pulled Ron into a kiss. Everyone turned their attention over to Pansy, who let out an almighty scream when she was knocked to her feet. Blaze started growing quickly. In a matter of seconds, his head had gone through the mass of of scattered candles placed across the ceiling of the Great Hall. Gasps of horror emanated from around the hall, and Lavender tripped and fell before Ron's feet. Don't touch him, Blaze bellowed in a voice that shook the castle. Lavender started slightly sobbing, covering oh gosh, cowering as Blaze took a small step forward. "Leave me alone, you freak," she screeched, throwing a fork from the Gryffindor table through the half-giant, who seemed unfazed. "You're a faggot. You're faggots. Oh, gosh. Ron is mine, and no one will take him away from me." Everyone gasped. I can't believe she said that, seeming to have regained a new sense of confidence despite the fact that she hadn't stopped shaking. Blaze took a larger step forward, a murderous look plastered on his face, just as McGonagall came running in. "Mr. Zabini, calm down," she shouted to no avail. Lavender kept throwing homophobic insults at Blaze, and he looked angrier by the minute. Just then, his eyes started to glow a bright yellow, and his fingertips had bright flames dancing around them. "Blaze!" Ron finally shouted. The bright yellow glow from the Slytherin's eyes and fingertips subsided. "Calm down, please, for me," Ron almost pleaded, and Blaze looked down at him sincerely. Ron placed a hand on his foot, and Blaze almost instantly shrunk back to his normal size. Once in said size, he stepped forward and slapped Lavender so hard she bumped against the table behind her. "Don't you ever go near Ron again, or your cheek won't be the only thing stinging." Yep, my mind went there. I'm sorry. I can't. That sentence, if it didn't have "or," your cheek won't be the only thing that's stinging. So, that thing just, nope. He spat before striding out of the Great Hall. People immediately started bombarding Ron with questions until the loud voice of Professor Snape shut everyone up. "Mr. Weasley will answer questions when he is ready. As for Mr. Zabini, I suggest no one bombard him unless you want to be eaten. Off to bed, all of you," he said in his normal voice. Monotone voice, and everyone scurried off to their common rooms. Hey, I know it's short, but it had to be done. Bye. That was the author's note, not me. Ooh, bitch. Work it, honey. That's a good picture. Sorry, I'm looking at the new child picture. Blaze looks, I'm gonna say it, sexy. Need you now. Oh, honey, what? I really don't know what was happening. One minute I was on the floor, the next I'm towering over everybody. My body feels like fire. All I saw was red. My head and fingertips were throbbing for some reason, and everything seemed to move as I moved, as if every step I took, something would wobble. I heard people leaving the Great Hall and started walking faster, which was not a good idea. I face planted onto the ground and yelped when I felt someone pull me up. "Shut up for a second, will you?" another person said. Pansy? Draco? What happened?" I asked. "I really don't know what's going on." "Hold on, hun," Pansy whispered, and they They led me into the abandoned classroom in the dungeons. Pansy, get Ron. His eyes are still black, Draco murmured to Pansy before she sprinted out of sight. Dre, what happened? I heaved, and he pulled me into a hug. I'll explain, but we need you to calm down before it happens again, he said, and I hugged him tighter. I was really freaking out. Everything just seemed so blurry. Blaze? I heard Ron whisper, and I relaxed a bit. I didn't notice I had been shaking until he pulled me into a hug. Geez, you're boiling, he exclaimed. Sorry, I'm getting off track. Blaze, I need you to calm down, Ron said, looking me square in the eyes. I can't. I don't know what's happening. What did I do? I said hesitantly. That doesn't matter. Come with me, he said, taking my hand and leading me out of the classroom. Blaze, Pansy, and Draco soon following. We'll be in the common room if you need us, Pansy said, and Ron nodded. We walked up to the astronomy tower, and I stared at him. My body was no longer feeling like fire, but I was still shaking. Can you play something for me? Ron asked, suddenly bringing me out of my thoughts. I don't have anything to play with, I said, and he furrowed his brow before smiling and taking out his wand. Akio Blaze's guitar, he said, and there was silence for a few seconds before a window broke somewhere and my guitar flew into view, nearly hitting Ron in the stomach. He handed it to me and I stared down at it. The guitar was white with gold patterns on the edges with my name written in gold at the very bottom. It had been a Christmas present from Narcissa when Draco and Pansy and I were 14. I still cherished it to this day. I sat down on the railing, making sure I didn't fall to my death, and positioned the instrument. I play a few chords before settling on Need You Now by Lady Antebellum. I played the intro and out of habit started singing, my eyes closed as the music took me in. Insert Need You Now by Lady Antebellum, cover by Sam Sue. Picture perfect memories scattered all around the floor, reaching for the phone 'cause I can't fight anymore. I opened my eyes in shock when Ron started singing with me, his voice much deeper than mine. And I wonder if I ever crossed your mind. For me, it happens all the time. It's 1:15. I'm all alone, and I need you now. I said I wouldn't call, but I lost all control, and I need you now. I need you now. Yeah. Someone said no, not now. Okay. I don't know. I don't know how I can do without. I just need you now. I played, and he started singing the second verse. I chimed in before the chorus, and we harmonized beautifully. Cold mist passing our lips as we breathed. As we sang the last chorus, I jumped off the railing and started playing and singing with him while standing. I just need you now. I don't know how the song goes, but I just wanted to make it up. I probably do, I just don't. I know the words. The words sound familiar, just don't know the tune. We finished the song and I stood I stood my guitar against the railing and pulled him into a kiss. I felt like my body was on fire, almost like this time it warmed me instead of burning, and my heart got faster. With each movement of his lips on mine, there was a clap from the stairs, slow, followed by multiple claps at once. I froze, so did Ron. I slowly turned my head to see Harry, Hermione, Pansy, Draco, and Madame Pomfrey, and Professor McGonagall. My eyes widened in shock, and I tripped, almost fell on literally nothing. I didn't know you could sing, Professor McGonagall exclaimed happily. I blushed, thanking Merlin for my darker complexion. Zabini, that's what I wanted to talk to you about, said Madame Pomfrey warily, pointing to my fingers, which were emanating bright yellow flames that I had not noticed. If possible, my eyes widened further. I jumped. What's happening? I screamed, and she hesitated, walking towards me. It's your special ability. Plans. Hermione's POV. I was walking down the corridors the next day on the way to the ancient ruins when I heard Lavender talking to someone. I stopped in my tracks to listen. They've already figured so much out. What are we supposed to do now? Lavender whined. How much do they know? Said a voice that was hauntingly familiar. They know of their powers they need to protect each other, and I'm sure they already know their magical heirlooms, being Zabini's ring and Weasley's necklace, said a third voice I loathed. Cormac chuckled, before an unidentified voice spoke again. I'll contact you two when we've figured out the next move. For now, keep doing your job, and remember to play your cards right. Get as many allies as you can, said the voice. Bye, A. See you later, Lavender said before there was a loud whooshing sound, and Lavender and Cormac walked away. When I checked to see where they had been standing, nobody was there. That's strange. Okay, here's an author's note. Hey guys, quick author's note. Please erase every time Ron had looked in the mirror from your mind. I forgot that vampires can't see their reflections. And was reminded by someone in the comments. Well, he could be different. He could be just like, what was it like in, crap. What was it called? Not Vampire Diaries. They can see each other in the mirror, too. I was thinking of, what is that really stupid one that nobody likes? Well, some people like, because it's funny. Twilight. That's what it is. Twilight. I found Harry and Ron lounging in the common room. Quickly made my way to them. Why are you such in rush, Miney? Harry asked me, once I sat down in between Ron and himself. I just heard Lavender talking to Cormac about some plan. I heaved. But get this, there was another person there. A girl, but she vanished when I could look at her. Her voice was faintly familiar. I said, running a hand through my curly locks. They called her A. Author's note again. Pretty Little Liar vibes? Am I right? Credits to at Turtle Freak AKW2. Well, that's suspicious. We should probably keep an eye on her. Harry sighed, slouching more on the couch. Why do you look so exhausted? Ron asked. Harry, who coughed, a slight blush cascading his face, was doing homework last night, he muttered, and Dean, who was passing by with Seamus, snorted. Or he was the homework. He smirked, and Ron and I looked at him funny. Seamus seemed to catch his drift, though. Yeah, slammed on the table and done all night. He finished, and Harry's entire body radiating with heat, his face putting Ron's hair to shame. Ron burst out laughing, clutching his sides, tears falling from his eyes, whilst I looked at Harry incredulously, and honestly, a bit amused. Gits! Completely! An absolute gits! He finally shouted and left the common room, banging the portrait behind him. Ooh, shouldn't say that in a sentence. Hey, Harry, wait, I'm sorry, Ron shouted, trying to hold back the laughter and tears, but to no avail. The portrait swung open again, but the only thing that came through was Harry's hand giving the finger before he closed it again. Mama? There was something funny. Well, that's suspicious. We should probably keep an eye on her. Harry sighed, slouching more into the couch. Why do you look so exhausted? Ron asked. Harry, who coughed, a slight blush cascading on his face. Was doing homework last night, he muttered, and Dean, who was passing by with Seamus, snorted. Or maybe he was the homework. He smirked, and Ron and I... Yes, I had to show my mom that part. But it didn't record all the way, but it's fine. She had a big smile on her face. Ron shouted, trying to hold back the laughter and tears, but to no avail. The portrait swung open again, but the only thing that came through was Harry's hand giving us the finger before he closed it again. I stifled a chuckle before we followed Harry with Dean, Seamus, and Neville out for dinner. When we got there, we saw Cormac walking towards the Slytherin table, and Ron growled, Ron, calm down. Blaise isn't there, I said, putting a hand on Ron's chest to stop him. He nodded angrily. Before we all took a seat, we talked for a bit when I heard a popping sound and knew it was Ron's flask. I'm happy that he finally got comfortable with drinking blood. It causes less of a chance of him fainting on us again. I chuckled at the thought before with my mind diverted from the conversation I was previously in. I turned to Ron, and he was staring at the wall. He looked blank. Ron, are you all right? I asked, and he shook his head, as if in a daze, before nodding. I have to go, he said briskly, before practically running out of the great hall. I furrowed my eyebrows, and so did Harry. We got up and followed him, shocked out of our socks when we saw... You deserve this. Blaise, are you all right? You really look not yourself. I asked Blaise, who shook his head slowly. I need to go, he said quickly before leaving the hall. I looked at Pansy. And Pansy and we shared a concerned look. So we followed him, his footsteps leading us Oh no! It was a love potion! No! They stopped, and when they stopped, we watched as he slowly walked towards McLuggan. I was about to pull him away from the Pratt, but Pansy dragged me back so we could watch undetected. Cormac smirked before taking out his wand and summoning his Patronus. "We've got him, Lav. See you later," he said. The wispy silver Patronus flew out an open window. Cormac tapped his wand on an unmoving blaze, and he fell into Cormac's grasp before a cloud of black smoke covered them both, and they disappeared. "Blaze!" I shouted. I ran towards where they were standing, and I fell to the floor. "They were just here," I cried. "Draco, we need to warn the others. I have a feeling Brown's gonna try Ron." Pansy screamed. I nodded, and we started running. As we were running through the corridors, we heard sniffing. "Hermione, what's wrong?" Pansy asked, crouching down to Hermione, who was being cradled by Ron on the floor. "Lavender took Ron," she sobbed into Pansy's shoulder. And I helped shaking Harry up. "Cormac took Blaze," I whispered, and their eyes widened. How are we supposed to find them?" Harry finally asked, and we all became quiet. "Before Cormac took him, did Blaze look absolute blank to you guys?" Hermione asked, and Pansy and I nodded. Hermione and I saw the Git walking near where you guys sit at the Slytherin table. He must have spiked Blaze 'cause Ron wasn't the same after drinking. Harry shouted, and we all ran towards the Great Hall. It was empty, except for the house elves cleaning things. We ran over to where Ron was sitting and tapped his wand shakily on his flask. "It's a mind-stunning a potion. That ass!" "Check Blaze's food," Hermione ordered, blushing at the fact that she cursed. Though something I found she only does in situations like these. I ran to the stew Blaze had been eating, and I tapped the bowl. The particles of the potion shone a bright green, and I kicked the seat. "How are we supposed to find them?" Pansy asked, latching onto my arm, which I took graciously. "I don't know," Harry sighed, sniffing a bit. "The school has to know," Hermione said, and we all looked at her incredulously. "What? If it will help having everybody looking. Maybe Cormac and Lavender's goons know where they went," she said, and we all pondered this for a moment before running off to the headmistress's office. "Blaze and Ron have been taken," Pansy screamed, bursting the door open and startling McGonagall, who was having a teacher meeting. "What do you mean?" she said. "McLuggan and Brown poisoned them. We followed, and they just whooshed away in black smoke," Harry answered, and all the professors gasped. "Oh my. We will have to have announcement tomorrow morning, where we will start looking. Are you all right? You look a bit shaken," McGonagall asked concerningly. "We're fine, Professor," Hermione answered. We nodded in agreement. "Professors, what do you think?" McGonagall then consulted the staff quietly. "Well, if they left in a clouded black smoke, that can only mean One thing, Professor Lupin said gravely. And what's that? I asked nervously. Miss Brown and Mr. McLuggan are part of the Blood Crown, the most powerful vampire coven to have existed since Mr. Hawthorne, who if I am correct, is Mr. Weasley's great times 6 grandfather. Snape said, and we all paled. Lavender and Cormac are vampires as well? Well, this is got a whole lot worse. The next morning, we all sat at Gryffindor table with Harry and Hermione. I hadn't been able to sleep at all last night. Blaze's snoring always calmed me. Next to me, Harry was playing with his glasses, looking absolutely out of it. As the rest of us were, I craned my neck and kissed his forehead, making many people gasp and started to gossip. Just then, Professor McGonagall stood at the podium and asked for silence. Last night, something very terrible happened to our two very cherished students here at Hogwarts, she said, and this seemed to strike everyone's attention. Last night, Ronald Weasley and Blaise Zabini were kidnapped by two of our own students. Cormac, McLuggan, and Lavender Brown. Everyone gasped, and she nodded slowly. Something that has come to recent awareness is that both McLuggan and Brown are part of the Blood Crown Coven, she added, and everyone gasped once more, muttering to their peers. So if you know of any of their whereabouts, then please inform us immediately. She said sincerely. We will find Mr. Zabini and Mr. Weasley. The professors, the ministry, and myself shall see to it that they are returned. We are all dismissed. And with that, everyone got up and left the Great Hall in a panic ruckus. The blood-crowned Coven's headquarters. I groaned and opened my eyes. Everything was dark. I felt weak and unable to move. I was laying on a cold, hard concrete floor that scraped my hands as I tried to stand. Ah, you're awake. Finally, a voice echoed through the dark. McLuggan? I croaked, and he chuckled, coming into view. This won't hurt a bit. He smiled, flicking a needle filled with black liquid into my hand. What are you going to do? I rasped, and he chuckled again. Everything, love. Now hold still. He smirked, and taking out his wand, he waved it and said something unintelligible before metal bonds were locked around my wrists and arm and neck. Please say feet too, because I don't want you to touch my feet. I don't want you to touch me anywhere. You sick psychopath. Then again, I'm weird. The bonds were still then chained to the wall behind me with such force that I hit my head on the wall. I felt warm blood trickle down my head, and my vision blurred. What's the needle for? I asked, trying to hide my fear. This is just something to make you so weak that you won't be able to shift. He smirked before, without warning, ramming the needle into my shoulder. I screamed. The liquid felt cold and mismatched inside my blood, and it was as if someone had poured lava into my body. The pain was excruciating. Once my screams of pain died down, I lay there tired and sore. If you think it's the worst part, you should see what they're doing to Weasley. He chuckled, and I thrashed her violently against the chains. Leave him alone! I shouted, but all he did was roll his eyes. I still don't know what you see in him. He tutted, and I scoffed. I could make you feel things he couldn't even dream of. He whispered, sauntering toward me. What are you doing? I spatted, and he started caressing my robes. Calm down, Blaise, he said, calming before slapping me. I looked up at him angrily to see him removing his own robes. What are you going to do? I said, my voice breaking. What you deserve. That was gross. Oh. I feel I can throw up in my mouth. Too familiar. You know damn well, I know I should stop there, but I'm not going to stop there because I'm going to throw up. Too familiar. First of all, thank you for 400 followers, and I am so lucky to have you guys as readers. Second of all, don't kill Cormac and Lavender yet. I still need them for the story. Thank you and enjoy. No, I'm not enjoying this, okay? Writer, whatever. Oh no, I'm starting to get sick. Blaise, I called out. Nothing. It was dark and cold, and I have been awake for a few minutes. I'm chained to a wall, and no matter how much strength I use, it hasn't been enough to break the bonds against my wrists. Good to see you're awake, Master Weasley. A faintly familiar voice boomed through the room, yet I couldn't see anything. A dim light flickered on in the center of a figure came into view. She had long strawberry blonde hair, high cheekbones, and a lifeless red eyes. The girl from my dream and the train. But now that I think about it, she also looks familiar from somewhere else. You! I roared and failed out the chains. Yes, I see you remember me from the vision I sent you. She smiled, quirking her eyebrow blissfully. And from the train. And what do you want with me? I sneered, and she chuckled, changing her weight from one foot to the other. Well, Master Ronald, I was sure that you would be much smarter than this, seeing that you have Thornhold blood. But then again, you will always be a Weasley, she sighed. But it's not you I want, no. Your inheritance is possibly one of the largest I've ever seen, passing the Malfoy status by an inch, she said, squinting as she smiled. Leave Draco alone, I spat, and she shook her head. You have a terrible temper. Draco Malfoy has the inheritance the size of a dam. He has the looks is rich, and a pureblood line. But he is not a Thornhold. Or a vampire, for that matter. She sighed again. What is she playing at? You see, humans depict us as lifeless killing machines, which we are, but we do have blood running through our veins. It's just not normal, per se. She smiled, a malevolent twinkle in her eyes. What do you mean? I asked, and she chuckled again. Our blood holds our power. Take take a vampire's blood, you take the vampire's power," she said, and my face paled. "You're going to take my blood because it's part Thornhold?" I asked, and she voiced my voice shaky. "Yay! You're not dumb. You're not that dumb after all." She grinned. My chest tightened, just as the woman held her wand towards where my heart would usually be. We heard a faint, "Leave him alone! Blaze!" I shouted, my chest restricting even more if possible. "Don't tell me you took him too," I shouted at her, pulling against the chains, making them quiver violently. She laughed a laugh that Bellatrix would have been proud of. "Now there's the vampire in you," she screeched happily. "That's what I want, Weasley. That power. It's what we all want. It's what only you have," she said excitedly. "Don't hurt him," I said, enraged. "Don't worry about the giant. We have other uses for him," she deadpanned. "And what may I suppose is that? What may I suppose that is?" I asked, huffing with rage. "Well, it seems at the moment Cormac's little pet." She sat happily, and that did it. I growled so loudly the room shook. The chains around my wrists shattered like glass. I attacked her, but she stifled me before I could do any harm. "Well, I guess I don't have to ask you to hold still anymore, do I?" she chortled, and I wanted to sneer. She took out a shiny blade from her pocket and proceeded to cut my arm. The gash was deep, oozing with black blood, and she collected it in a vial. I felt chains being tied onto my waist. When the spell lifted, I was harshly dragged to the wall, bound to it. "Please, just don't hurt Blaze, please," I begged, and she cackled maniacally. "Oh, honey, he's going to get himself hurt." She giggled/snorted, and I quirked my eyebrow. "What do you mean he'll hurt himself?" I asked her, frowning. "If my cousin's little pet doesn't behave, he's supposed to do things or will happen." She grinned. I frowned further. "Cousin?" I repeated, and she nodded. "My sister, cousin, and I have built the coven from the ground up, and it's finally time for us to rule. And with your blood and Zabini's blood, we can finally do that." She grinned psychotically. When she finished laughing, Lavender Brown walked in, practically giddy towards the girl. Lavender's eyes were red. "Hello, dear sister. I do very much love this present you've gotten me." The girl smiled to Lavender, who smirked evilly. "Hey, Wan," she grinned, and I gagged against the chains against my neck. "Your family really must be fucked up." I spat at her, and they both cackled. "Cormac is just having a little fun with Zabini. He should be done in an hour." Ugh. Sorry, I'm gagging. "Oh, I'm not going to survive this. I'm not, she said, and the girl grinned. "Perfect. The initiation should take place next week. For now, don't let anyone feed them," the girl said. Who are you? I asked out of the blue. Greengrass. Astora Greengrass. I want you to beat his ass. That's what I want you to do. I want to beat both of their asses. That's what you need to do. Now, right now, this instant, please, before I beat them for you. Because this is, no. No. Hell no. Regalna. Astora Greengrass, I repeated, and she nodded. That's why you're so familiar. You used to have brown hair, I whispered to myself, and she nodded. The Browns, McLuggans, and Greengrasses have always been family, except nobody knew. My other sister, Daphne, is the fourth of our little quartet. That's 5, not 4. We never see eye to eye, but we're all here for one thing: power. She sighed before leaving the room with Lavender. Oh, thank goodness. No. McCormick's with the Blaze, and you have to kill him. You have to kill McCormick. Not McCormick, Cormac. It's too similar. If I say McCormick, you know what I mean. Kill him. The flickering light went out, and I slouched against the cold stone wall. What is this initiation thingy they were talking about? I said myself, my voice echoing in the darkness of the room. It's probably where they're going to drink my blood, I sighed sarcastically. In the distance, I can hear muffled sound of struggling voice and a clanging of chains. Blaze, I thought helplessly, please be okay. Sooner or later, someone came in, and I suddenly felt something being plunged into my shoulder. The pain was excruciating. It was worse than the day I had been turned, and my throat soon throbbed from screaming. My entire body was burning, and I thrashed around, trying to rid the pain, but to no avail. Once I stopped, I felt in a heap against the wall, and a deep chuckle rumbled through the dark room. That'll keep you from shifting. The man's voice spat, and I immediately recognized it as Armin, the man who had confronted Harry and I first. You! I rasped angrily. The vision was blurring, and I felt dizzy. The darn potion he put in me. It's more poison than anything, but yeah. Wait, what are you going to do with me? I sighed, and the last part as he left the room, I felt as weak and powerless. How were Harry and Hermione, Pansy and Draco supposed to find us? How were we going to escape? What if I was snapped out of my thoughts when I heard the door lock on my door click. The door opened, and a figure came inside, cloaked in a shadow. When it came closer, I saw it was a boy. This boy had silky white hair that reached their lower back, swishing as he walked. His wandering red eyes roamed the cell that I was in, and he looked almost sad. He looked young, though, late teens at most. Wait a minute, you're the one who bit me. Who turned me? I shouted. He flinched badly. Raymond, Rob, I tried trying to remember his name, but he stopped me. Reginald, he whispered, and I glared at him. It's all your fault, I shouted, and he flinched again. I'm sorry, he stuttered, adjusting the tray he had whilst sitting down cross-legged to be level with me. What's this? More poison? I asked angrily, and he shook his head. Blood. For you. I mean, he muttered. He laid the tray down in front of me. I looked up at him confused. Before looking down at the blood, thirst caving my mind without a second thought, I looked at the bonds around my wrists, and he took out his wand and waved it, and the bonds vanished. I immediately took the glass from the tray and drained it. He waved his wand again, and 4 more glasses of blood appeared on the tray, and in no time they were empty. I wiped my mouth clean, savoring the sweet taste, before looking up at him. Why haven't you tried anything? I asked, and he looked sad again. You don't deserve what was happening to you. What I've done to you, he said, and I nodded skeptically. The least I could do for forcing you into this situation is helping you out of it, he said with a sad smile, and I saw it, the sincerity in his eyes. It'll take me a while, but I forgive you. A little bit, anyways. I said, and he grinned. Reginald? I asked, and he looked up. Yes? Can you show me your human form? I asked, and he went slightly tense before closing his eyes, breathing in and out a few moments. And a white smoke covered him for a moment before it disappeared, and a small Asian boy emerged from the fading smoke. His hair had been slightly darker. It was now dirty blonde instead of white, and his eyes were hazel. Happy? He asked, and I nodded with a smile. You need to teach me how to do that. Usually I don't know how to have much control over when I shift. I chuckled, and he snorted, nodding in reply. What are they going to do to me? I asked suddenly, shocking him a bit. He scratched his neck and took a deep breath in. The leaders, the Coven, Master Greengrass, McLuggan, and Brown, are going to extract more blood from you. Then they will drink it. After that, they directly drink all the blood from a half-giant, and the final thing they have to do is walk into the sun. It's called a blood ritual, Reginald said gravely. My lungs contracted. They're going to kill Blaze. Do you know where the half-giant cell is? He looked and he shook his head. They moved him to a place where minors, like myself, aren't allowed, he said, and I pursed my lips. How are we going to save him? I asked, sadly, and he looked at me, confused. Who? Half-giant. Do you know him? I inquired, and I nodded my head. He's my mate, I said, and Reginald gawked. After a long silence of him thinking, he looked sad again. I'm sorry, he said quietly, and I smiled sadly. It's all right. We'll get out of here, I assured him, and he nodded. Hey, how did you get mixed up in all this? I asked, and he tensed up again. I was on the brink of death, fighting a war in the East. An old man found me dying and said that everything would be fine. Not knowing what else to do, I asked him how. He told me that it was going to hurt, and I was very confused, but then proceeded to bite me. After that, he ran away, and I was left alone. I learned how to survive, and at some point decided to leave the East. So I came here. The nice old man, Mr. Thornhold, your grandfather, took me in and taught me more about what I was. He was a leader of the biggest coven in the world, and I was to take over for him. I was very excited, but then he was killed by Master Greengrass. They forced me to join after his passing, and I didn't have any other choice. I was either this or dead. He said, as he spoke. I was momentarily reminded of Draco, not having a choice. I've been here ever since. I don't like what they do, but if I'd left, where else would I go? He said. With a sad laugh, I perked up. You could come to Hogwarts with us, I said, and he laughed. How old are you anyway? I asked, and he blushed. 417? I stared, open-mouthed at him, before chuckling. There was a loud clinking sound, the sound of voices, before I heard in the distance. I'm supposed to not be here, he hissed, getting up. I'm coming back tomorrow with more blood. He waving his wand again, the bound on my wrists appeared, and I was yanked back to the wall. He waved hastily before locking the door, leaving me alone. We might actually make it out alive, I thought, praying that Blaise was all right, like I have been every minute. The picture above is what I envision Reginald looks like. Oh, shoot on poopa. I don't know what that was. Reginald. This is it. Yeah, Reginald smoking a cig. That's attractive. I mean, it depends on who you're talking about. Okay. Should I go on? I mean, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Do it. There we go. It's been 6 days since I saw the sunlight. Thankfully, during those 6 days, Reginald had given me blood and has taught me how to control when I shift. But he still for the life of him, can't find where they are hiding Blaise. Apparently, they moved up him to a stronger cell. Only the 4 leaders know what it is and how to get in. If I've been counting the days correctly, today is the day of the blood ritual. I snapped my head up. The locks of the door clanked open. 2 burly, I was going to say Gryffindors, burly vampires walked inside, their wands pointed at me. You better not try anything, one of them said with a beard spat, and I rolled my eyes. With what that Armin guy jabbed into me? I'd be shocked if I could even stand. I joked, trying to lighten the tense mood. They were obviously stressed about something. The bearded man welded onto my wrists firmly, and I grunted in pain. Then his bald companion waved his wand, and the chains disappeared. The beard man picked me up as I was standing, and ordered me to walk. I did as told and sighed in frustration when the chains were once again locked onto my wrists. They walked me down a long, torchlit corridor with dark, velvety walls. Pictures of vampires killing wizards, witches, and muggles, looking proud of themselves, adorned the wall. And I shivered. At the end of the corridor stood a large medieval door with one handle. The bald man stopped. I'm hungry. Stopped. Muttered something to the door, and it opened gracefully. Inside was a large, very large room, about the size of the great hall, except with dark velvet walls, red fabric hang down from the ceiling. In the center of the room was a large, ornate dais where Lavender, Cormac, Daphne, and Astora stood. The four of them were clad in dark togas. In black togas. Wait, are we like Greek gods here? What is going on? That was what I would do, and I would get killed. That's the problem with me. I can't keep my damn mouth shut. If I'm the one getting kidnapped, I don't keep my damn mouth shut. And the four, whereas everyone else in the room wore red ones. That's when I actually noticed how many red ones were cast upon me. There were thousands of vampires in the room, all standing around the dais. I'm probably not supposed to say the S. I've seen the word before, but I don't know if I'm supposed to say the S or not. Well, I am, so screw off. Yeah. In the distance, I could see Reginald looking very sad and very frightened. I was then harshly pulled to the ground, and the two men holding me disappeared into the crowd. Welcome, Cormac jeered, to the blood ritual, where we all finally gain the power we deserve. Daphne Greengrass exclaimed, and everyone clapped. First, we drink the blood of the only vampire descendant of Sagus Thornhold, an admired vampire, believed that mudbloods, wizards, and vampires could live in harmony. Well, I say no, Astora shouted, and the vampires began cheering. With a wave of her hand, they all became silent. Rise, said Lavender, lifting her hand. It was as if someone was pulling me up. As I was hovering at their level, I floated towards them and landed at their feet. Eldest to youngest, drink the blood once belonged to our leader, our forefather. Lavender cackled. Cormac smirked, kneeled down, and he was next to me, bit down on my arm. Being unable to scream anymore, I twitched violently, agonizing pain, kind of like Bella in Twilight. True. After a few seconds, the girls pulled Cormac off of me, and he wiped his mouth. His red eyes started glowing greedily. Daphne did the same, and her eyes were glowed when she finished. Then Astora, and then Lavender, who also came with glowing, ravenous eyes. The flesh on my wrists were ripped off, but I wasn't bleeding as much as a normal human would. But then again, I'm not normal in the slightest. My twitching ceased to shaking as I lay. Sorry. Look Dad. I'm gonna cry. Now we drain the life of the creature that holds much power. Daphne grinned and I froze. I heard the door open again and my nose was immediately harassed by Blaze's scent. I was thrown into a cage next to Lavender and I clutched at my wrist. Blaze didn't look good at all. He had scars everywhere, bruises, burns. Hell, he was even being carried on a floating wooden table. But to my relief, I could still hear his faint heartbeat ringing in my ears, making me furious. "Leave him alone!" I shouted, and the cage was in. No, I went past an hour. Oh, no! I'm so sorry. I just got into the story and I couldn't get out of it. Ugh. I was rattled. No! No can do, Wan. Lavender squealed. Kicking the cage, I was shaking with rage. But the cage wouldn't budge. At this point, I had completely forgotten about my throbbing fleshy hand, with a wooden table hovering over the leaders, and Cormac being looking hungrily at Blaze. He lowered his face towards Blaze's neck and bit. It was as if Blaze had died and come back to life. His screams pierced my ears and tears started falling from my eyes. Cormac drank his blood and pulled away with much force, his eyes going brighter. All the girls did the same as Blaze's heartbeat stopped ringing in my ears. When Lavender finished drinking, it stopped completely. I froze again, dumbstruck and shaking. He's dead. Third person. Ron screamed, and he screamed so loud the room shook, and the parts of the roof fell off. Most people fell at the sheer sound. Let him escape. We need the sun. That's the best part, the last part of the ritual, or it will all be for nothing. Astora hissed, and the leaders fled the room, and Ron shifted the chains around his wrist, and the cage he had was disintegrated. He stared at the mass of the vampires, his eyes alit. He sped across the room, biting down on any neck and every neck he saw, killing everyone he came into contact with. He ripped bodies to shreds and bit those who pleaded innocent, but Ron could see it in their eyes. The lies they tell, the torches in the room quivered. It was quiet. Everyone in the room was dead, or so he thought. "Let's go," shouted a voice, and Ron turned around angrily, only as so soften his gaze when he saw Reginald carrying Blaze, his toga long and forgotten on the floor. Out of nowhere, more vampires started running towards them. The immense supernatural speed Ron ran led the way. He shouted to Reginald, one who led away from the room. "Who we have to stop. Stop the leaders before they reach the sun. They'll be partially unstoppable if not." Reginald panted, taking care not to damage Blaze's body. We need to turn him, he shouted, back to Ron, who stopped dead in his tracks. "What do you mean?" he asked incredulously. Oh my gosh. You have to turn him. It's the only way to crumble. It's only way to crumble this place to the ground. Reginald heaved in reply. Just meters away, they saw the leaders advancing towards a large area of sun. was visible on the other side, towards the vampires hurtling towards them. I'll distract them. You turn him. He ordered, and Ron shook his head. I can't. What if I hurt him? He cried, and Reginald slapped him. Listen to me, man. It's the only way to save him. It's the only way to actually bring him back to the life. You'll be all right. If I can do it, you can too, Reginald said, softening his face. The white-haired boy nodded assuringly before running at the top speed towards the leaders. I'm sorry, Blaze. Please come back. Ron pleaded, and his canines elongated, and was shocked when his bottom two teeth did as well. Ron pushed the vampire venom from his teeth like he had felt Reginald do to him a few months ago, and pulled away as quickly as possible. He stared at Blaze and started crying. I'm sorry I couldn't save you. Now you're gone, he cried. He then jumped in shock, literally shock. Something had shocked him. He looked down at his mate. His chest was glowing a bright white light, and his fingers were had electricity sparking around them. Blaze opened his eyes with a jolt. They were crimson. Ron? He gasped, and Ron threw his arms around him. Blaze did the same. He pulled back and kissed Blaze on the cheek. Let's go kill those assholes. He smirked, and both stood up. It might be really weird to run as fast as for the first time, so please be careful, Ron suggested, and and Blaze nodded fondly. The two of them sprinted towards the leaders, and as they currently being stalled, the halls they ran past looked like a blur. Ron looked over to Blaze as they were running and marveled as electricity flowed from him like a blinding streak. Oh, Cormac! Ron shouted once they had stopped. Cormac turned around. Blaze watched in shock as Ron bit down on Cormac's neck, practically shred him into smithereens. He was honestly quite turned on. Astora and Lavender shrieked as the life from Cormac vanished and lay dead on the ground with his eyes open. Lavender lunged at Ron, but Blaze stepped in between them and grasped her throat. He grinned as Lavender scratched at his hand. The heat inside him bubbled, and his arms were engulfed in electricity, burning Lavender's neck. He squeezed tighter and tighter, and until he threw Lavender onto the ground. He leaned down and pulled her hair, decapitating her. All with a smile, Astora and Daphne stared at the pair in fear before running towards the sunlight. They ran into it. Their eyes glowed brighter than ever, to the point where they were blind. It was blinding. Out of exertion, Blaze fainted, and Ron caught him before he hit the ground. We have to go. They're too powerful now. Reginald came out of nowhere, pulling Ron along with him. What about getting rid of the coven? Ron asked as they ran into the woods. Blaze isn't well enough. He's the only giant here, and the place is enormous. That place is enormous, he shouted back, and Ron nodded in an understanding. They ran and didn't stop. At some point, Ron caught a glimpse of the train tracks and Hogwarts Express usually takes, and smiled. He knew where to go, and after about a day on running, they finally made it to Hogwarts. Home. My thing, I'm closing this out. Yeah, I've read too much. I'm sorry. But I'm just so into the story that I kind of got lost in it, I guess. And I didn't want to end it on the note where Cormac's beating the crap out of Blaise. And I don't think that's gonna be a good ending. So, that's when, we'll end it here. And, but I think that the blood thing only makes you as powerful as as what they would be, but together with him being almost a full giant, and Blaise, and Ron being like having most of his powers, them together is like 2 times of those two together. So because of that, I think they have no chance. I think they have no chance against the power duo of Ron and Blaise, and I just think it's gonna be impossible of them to beat them. Anyways, guys, thank you guys for watching. Give it a big thumbs up and comment down below what you want to see next, because I'm still looking for a Drarry story that is able to finish with this one, because I didn't know my Drarry story would be that. Wait, no, I'm looking for a Snarry story. There we go. And I'm looking for a Mary story too. And thank you guys for watching. Give it a big thumbs up. Also, put on push notifications if you haven't yet. If you haven't even subscribed yet, subscribe and put on push notifications so you're notified every time I post. I'm sorry that I haven't been able to post in a while. Things happened. Right now I want to go ask my mom to go get ice cream from Dairy Queen. I want a big, large cone. Butterscotch dipped cone from I want Dairy Queen, or I want to go out to eat. I just want to get out of the house because it makes me ponder on what happened, and I'm scared to even drive anymore, to be honest with you. But okay, anyways, guys, thank you guys for watching. Bye bye. Love you guys so much. I have a question for you. What does YES spell? What does EYES spell?
I have no idea.
Okay, what does a YES spell?
Yes.
What does EYES spell?
EYES.
Yes. What does it spell?
EYES.
What does it spell? What's the word?
EYES.
Okay. You have them on your face.
Eyes.
Yes! YES. Yes.